Kent Christmas walked onto the stage in front of a crowd of 130,000 people with millions more watching online. He had no clue what he was going to say. Kent trusted that God would help him just as he's done his entire life.
Pastor Kent Christmas of Regeneration Nashville Church has been in full-time ministry for more than 50 years. Though Kent leads a large church and has a huge online following, he says he knows what it means to be rejected, broke, and unsuccessful. In his autobiography, Turning Sorrow into Joy, Kent shares how his faith survived in the dark times of his life.
It is a joy to welcome Kent Christmas back to the program. Name of your book, Turning Sorrow into Joy.
Yes.
It's so great to see you. We've been sitting here figuring out how many years it's been since we've seen each other. A lot.
A lot, dear.
Yeah, but I caught up with you in the book. It was all good.
A few wrinkles.
Yeah, don't we all? Yes. I want to go back for just a minute before we get into some of the details of the book to your history with CBN and the 700 Club, because you were here, was it 22 years ago? We had a tent revival going on here.
Yes.
And all kinds of pastors and prophetic people were coming through here. And tell us about what happened for you at that time.
Well, you know, when I came, it was such a joy because I felt like, you know, it was a wonderful opportunity to expose our ministry. And,
Sure.
and you know, through a series of events, Pat was so gracious to ask me to come preach the tent service in that afternoon. And I thought, well, this will be a wonderful launching pad for, and I had a message all ready to preach, and I'm standing there between Mike Little and Pat, and tents packed, and then the Holy Spirit begins to give me this prophetic word, and it wasn't really a great word. And I knew, you know,
I felt your pain as I was reading about it.
You know, and of course, you know, there have been some advantages taken of the prophetic with over the years, and I told the Lord, I said, I'm not giving Pat this word. And the Lord spoke to me. He said, if you don't, I won't ever give you another word.
Wow.
And I said, well, this isn't going to end good, because if I start doing this, he's going to set me down.
Yeah.
And I remember he introduced me, and I began to speak what I heard the Lord say, and I kept waiting for Pat to hit me on the shoulder and say, that's enough, son. Yeah. And he did not. Yeah. And so I finished, and I remember he came to the mic and he said, we've heard from the Lord, and let's get on our knees and pray.
Wow.
And such a relief for me, you know, to have a man of that stature and that influence to really accept it. And so it really birthed. He was always so gracious to me. Yeah. And it was a wonderful time.
He was a man of daily communion with God. We were all on this campus fasting for 40 days during that time. So he recognized that the word God gave you was indeed from the Lord.
Yes.
In another point when you were here, you received a prophetic word from a man. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, I'd never met him. His name was Wallace Heflin. And I remember I had done a morning breakfast service. And when I got done, Wallace came to me. He said, I feel like the Lord spoke to me about you. Can I tell you? And I said, well, yes. And he said, the Lord said to tell you that he's going to promote you, and it's going to, when it comes, it's going to come very quick. He's going to expose you, you know, to the world, and that men are going to pull on you, and to be careful and guard the gift. And, well, you know, I'm in my late 30s, and I'm thinking, wow, this is, something's getting ready to happen. And, you know, it took 30 years for the word of the Lord to come. But it was kind of an anchor that I tucked away in my heart, and I held on to it.
And you needed it, because over the years there you had a marriage that broke apart. You had an estranged son. I mean, you went through many, many challenges and difficulties that would have sent a lot of people away from the pulpit or the altar for sure. But things like God giving you this word to hang on to allowed you to stay steadfast. How did you get through those difficult times? Because the ministry is such a public place.
It is. You know, prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cliche a lot of times, but literally my prayer life.
Yeah.
You know, for me, the greatest difficulty over the years was feeling like I was doing everything that would make my ministry work or the church grow. And, you know, here next month, I'm in my 53rd year of preaching.
Wow.
And I preached and pastored for 47 years, never could seem to have success. And, you know, preached 100 people. And my prayer life, when I would get in the presence of the Lord, it would kind of pull out the disappointment and, you know, the wanting to accuse God. And being in love with Jesus was something that literally kept me balanced.
Yeah.
And I realized that He is enough. And whenever success can override our love for Christ, we're going to get derailed.
Yes.
And, you know, too many people become successful without the process of suffering, and they don't finish strong because they get distracted. And I thank God that He was allowing me to go through the process.
I want to talk about, gosh, there's so much, so little time. I want to talk about the mall in Washington, D.C., because when the promise met the provision, God sent you in front of all of these people without a single word about what you were to say. It almost, I could feel your angst as I'm reading the book. and then you deliver a word, and everything that had been prophesied came to pass.
It did. Well, you know, first of all, I owe my wife such a gratitude, because when I was asked to come, I told her, I said, I'm not going to that because I've been to so many of these events. I said, it's symbolism without substance. Nothing ever happens. So she said, I feel like the Lord said you need to go. So I did go, and they had me slotted for day towards the last of the evening. When they brought me up on stage, and then, you know, there were so many people there, and moved me across, and the producer came and said, you know, you're going to be up in like 2 minutes. And he said, there's a red light up there, and he said, it'll be green when you speak, but when it's red, you got to go off.
Wow.
And when I went to the pulpit, I had nothing. It wasn't until I put my hands there that God said, okay, speak the word of the Lord. And
everything changed.
Everything changed.
Yeah. I want you to know that some of you may be suffering from some of the life disappointments that have dampened your faith, turning sorrow into joy. It's Kent's book. You need to read it. It's available